In Sarajevo is where I'm gonna shoot the Duke. I'm gonna shoot the Duke in Sarajevo. That's enough for y'all. Let's stop that. So our story of World War One begins here in Sarajevo. And basically, what we're seeing is Archduke Franz Ferdinand and his wife head down there to kind of for the ceremony in Sarajevo. This is the day of June 28th, 1914, and his wife Sophia. He is heir to the throne, and his basically great uncle had been in power since 1848. Think about that for a second. So he, of course, is heading down there to visit with people, to show Austria's strength, and basically this anarchist group known as the Black Hand decides they're going to assassinate him. They are a Yugoslav nationalist anarchist group, and they want Austria out of it. They do not like Austria for several reasons, especially going back to 1908 when they annexed Bosnia and Herzegovina, of which Sarajevo is, of course, the capital. So they set up this plan. They know the route. It's published in the newspapers, this parade. And here he comes. And basically, the first thing is right around here, a bomb is thrown at his motorcade and it explodes and it injured some people. But they ended up racing all the way through here. They passed Gavril Princeps, who had a gun. He was ready. And he was just like, man, this has gone really wrong. So he kind of just walks away. The car speeds away. It heads to the town hall. And the Archduke says, hey, let's go back to a hospital and visit the wounded. So they're in one of these older cars, and you imagine they're going down the road, and they stop right at this corner right here at the Latin Bridge. And the driver turns. The driver realizes that he's gone the wrong way. That's not the way to the hospital. It just so happens so. Think of the coincidence of this. That Gavril Princeps, after the failed assassination attempts, decides to go to basically this cafe. He's sitting there when all of a sudden the Archduke shows up. The car actually, when it realizes it's gone the right way, it's an old-timey car, the driver tries to reverse it, it stalls. Stalls right in front of Gavril Princeps. You can't make this up. So Princeps pulls out his gun that was weighing down his coat, and with his revolver, he fires some shots. He's going to hit the Archduke in the stomach. He's going to hit Sophia in the neck, and basically, he screams out, "Sophia, Sophia, don't die. Live for the kids." She was already dead. They race to the hospital, and his last words are, "It is nothing. It is nothing." Gavril Princeps, if you want to see his picture right here, was only about 18 years old. He was basically your age. He will be arrested. He will be put in prison and die of tuberculosis even before, of course, the war ends. And this is the shot. This is the thing that starts this alliance system and really gets it going. And this is what we, of course, are going to look at really right now. You can see the Balkans set up right here where Sarajevo is, where Serbia is. And really, we want to get to, of course, 1914 and what's going on here. And hopefully, you'll be able to follow along with my wonderful storytelling. And so, basically, there's a lot going on, of course, as we can see from Google Earth. Let me scan out. Just a couple seconds. Follow along here. Let's go quicker. There's Sarajevo, Latin Bridge. You with me? Put down your phones. Stop looking at your phones. So here we go. So here's kind of where this gets going. Austria is pissed. They just lost the heir to the throne. All right, he's been assassinated. And basically, after about a month, they give Serbia right down here a 48-hour ultimatum, some demands. Serbia agrees to all of them except one. The one demand they will not agree to is this. They basically will not agree for the Austrian army to march into Serbia and search out the murderers, because they know if the Austrian army comes into Serbia, they will not leave. So they say, we're not going to agree with this. Austria this time looks back to Germany and says, do you have our back? And Germany says, Yes, remember that alliance system. And this is why Germany gets the Warhill Clause, because if they would have said, hey, Austria, chill out, then this you would have had a war. But they gave, hey, we got your back. And they need Germany's back because they know once they go to war with Serbia, who's going to come in and help out the Serbs, but their Slavic brothers, the Russians. And they know this. Everybody knows this. And so that's why Austria needs Germany's back. And so Germany's like, go ahead. They know what happened earlier from our last lecture, how in prior Russia had backed down. This time Russia's not going to back down. And so basically what happens is we begin to get Austrian mobilization. Once that starts, we get Russian mobilization to this front right around here. Mobilization means getting all your troops together, getting your trucks together, food together. You're getting ready for war. This is where things start. This starts the 950 hours of the Schlieffen Plan. Now, what is the Schlieffen Plan? It's a follow the hand right here. It's a counterclockwise movement, all right, through Belgium and Luxembourg into northern France, coming down, going to the outside of Paris, defeating them, and then going to face the Russians. And so they feel like it'll take the Russians, I actually know the amount of hours, 950 hours to get all their troops to the front. And they feel like that's the amount of time they will need, basically roughly 2 weeks, to come in and defeat the Frenchies. And then they're out of it because they do not want a two-front war, and they can go and focus on the Russians over here. And this is why when all this stuff is going down in the Balkans, while the first shots basically, in many respects, are fired over here, because they have to Schlieffen Plan. Once they mobilize, that time frame starts. Now, Germany begins to mobilize along this front right here with Belgium, and they basically, with some ministers, they ask, basically Britain will you stand aside? And Britain replies, and they will not, because they're going to protect Belgian neutrality, going back to an 1838 treaty with Belgium, that they will protect the neutrality. And Germany is flabbergasted. They're like, you're going to go to war over a piece of paper? They actually said a scrap of paper. And Britain says, yeah. And even the Frenchies are pushing on with this, and they're saying, will the word honor be removed from the English dictionary? So there's all this pressure on the Brits to do something, but really, they're not coming. They have a loose alliance with France. They actually get involved in World War I because of Belgium. Think about that for a second. Not because of the Frenchies. Well, notice down here that the French and German border each other. Why doesn't the Germans just go through here instead of going into Belgium? Because going through here, they know they could still defeat the Frenchies, would take too long. Going up here with the Schlieffen Plan would be much, much quicker. Remember, they have that 950 hours time frame, and Germans don't bend from any rules at all. At all. So this is the motion of the troops. This army is massive, and it's all been planned out. I mean, there's Belgian residents right here when they first crossed the border around August the 4th, when this thing gets going in 1914, who said when the first German crosses, it goes on, the marching goes on for 29 miles till you get to the end. That's how many troops are crossing over into Belgium. Immediately, the Germans send out word that the Belgians need to stand down. That if they blow bridges, whole villages will be wiped out. Well, the Belgians immediately begin to do sniper shots at the Germans, begin to really blow up bridges, and the Germans react to this in a very fierce way, and this is when you get the whole propaganda of the rape of Belgium. And going back to imperialism, this kind of takes the onus off of Belgium and what they did in the Congo. People begin to feel sorry for Belgium, but that's a topic for another day. And the Germans feel like the Belgians are holding it up. Remember, they have 950 hours, and the Belgians are holding them up. And the Germans were like, what is a little army of chocolate soldiers can do against the best army in the world? Well, the Belgians have new killing weapons, just like the Germans do. And the main part of this story gets going on August the 5th, 1914, at this little town called Liège, right up here. Basically, the Germans get here, and there's four forts protecting it. And the Germans do these frontal attacks against machine guns. And just the Germans are being mowed down by the Belgians, left and right inside these forts. And one, they charge, and charge. Germans are hiding behind mounds of dead German bodies. And this is what they're doing. Finally, this famous German general named Ludendorff leads 5,000 people around the backside and comes into the Liège, and he knocks on a fort that's not guarded, all right, with the hilt of his sword, and basically a Belgian opens it up and he says, "I'm taking this fort." So, kind of an interesting thing. He becomes an immediate hero. But this is where we see things change, because the Germans are going to use artillery to destroy these forts. And forts will be useless, really, after what we see in Liège. The Germans have a new awesome weapon, all right? An artillery piece that weighs 300,000 pounds. The largest one for Napoleon weighed 1,200 pounds. It fires a shell that weighs 2,000 pounds, basically the size of a Volkswagen, while Napoleon's largest shell was 12 pounds. The range is 14,000 yards. Divide that by 1,700 and you can realize the miles. 2,000 yards was the farthest that Napoleon's cannon could go. It took 35 horses to carry each piece of it. They would assemble it with 100 couple guys laying cement. All right. The gun crew had to walk 3 football fields away to fire the weapon and still needed cotton in their ears, nose, and mouth. They had to press the button with their mouth open because the concussion could blow their eardrums. These are massive weapons, and it takes a full minute for the shell to get to the fort. A minute. You see this thing in the air, you hear it in the air. And when it hits the forts, they are reduced to rubble. The French, of course, aren't going to learn this, and they built something called the Maginot Line. But anyway, this is what is going on. So Belgium is slowing them down, and they are getting worried. Now, in the Schlieffen Plan, this first army has the most troops. 750,000 troops are in this German first army right here. The second army will have about 600,000, and then it gets weaker and weaker and weaker. Now, the strongest part of the French army is way down here in the Ardennes. So you got the strongest part of the French army not facing the strongest part of the German army, and you can see where some problems are going to be. In charge of the first army, German first army, is a guy by the name of von Kluck. All right, and he will play a big role, so that's what von Kluck looks very German. In charge of of course, the Frenchies is this guy by the name Joffrey. They said he was a big old rotund man. They said he loved chocolates. He loved food, I should say, like Churchill liked alcohol. So this is Joffrey right here. So these are our major players at this front. At this time, the British are shipping over 70,000 troops under General French. And that's what he looks like right there. So we have French leading the Brits, Joffrey leading the Frenchies, and a guy by the name of Moltke leading the whole German army. And so it's in motion. It is marching. Schlieffen Plan is in play. They are slowed down right here. And this is where we get to, of course, to the Battle of the Frontiers. Now, the French plan is that they're going to use French fighting spirit to defeat of course, the Germans, which is a dumb plan at all. But down here, the Frenchies begin to attack. And the Germans do a fighting retreat. They're retreating from August the 14th to August the 20th. And that is sucking the whole French army deeper and deeper away from the main German army. On August the 20th, the German commander right here asks, can he stop retreating and attack? And this is where they say Moltke says yes to this, and this is where some people say the Germans lost the war. The French should have been sucked in farther and farther, and they couldn't have come and help out later on in the Miracle on the Marne. So they are sucked in, and boom, Germany explodes on them. All right? Think about how amazing this is right here. The French are marching into battle with hats. Hats, not helmets. Cloth hats, red pants, and blue coats. Almost looking identical to what they did under Napoleon. But the artillery is just landing into the French. As an example of one French shell killing 70 out of 120 people outright. One shell. That's it. They're attacking in these tight columns, and machine guns hidden in the Ardennes forest are just mowing them down. At this time, Joffrey, not a bad plan, decides to move up and hit the hinge point of the Schlieffen plan right here. And when he does, you get some of the bloodiest days in French history. Guys, on April the 22nd, in an attack along this area right here, 27,000 Frenchies are killed. Now they're marching shoulder to shoulder, all right, into artillery and machine gun fire. The next day, another 20,000 are killed. After 3 days, the Frenchies have 75,000 killed and 250,000 wounded. Whole football stadiums need medical attention, and this is not hangnails, people. So think about what's going on right now with coronavirus and how the pressure on the medical establishment. In 3 days, you have 250,000 wounded and 75,000 killed. This is how intense this is. But at the same time, some things are going bad for the Germans. This may seem good. On August the 15th, the Serbs beat upon the Austrians, and Moltke's like, oh crap, I thought the Austrians could handle the Serbians. She's in the unfinished basement downstairs. Okay. And then, sorry, that was my daughter. And then the Russians arrive early. And Moltke's like, oh crap. So this is another way where people say that Moltke messed up, because it's going so well for the Germans, they actually take some troops and send them east. And they send them east to fight the Russians under the command of, you will know these names, Hindenburg and Ludendorff. He's the guy who knocked on the door of that Belgian fort. So this is basically what is going on at this point, and they're marching. So let's remember what's going on right here. Some weak French forces and the British are up here firing. The British really get into the line at this place called Mons, and this is where British say they saw an angel over the battlefield that gave them the reserve to really keep on fighting, the courage to keep on fighting anyway. It's just kind of a little myth. But they're pushing through here. Now, the Germans, though, they're getting shot at. They're getting shot at a lot. And they're marching 20 miles a day while being shot at. And so, as they march down through here, as you see, down through here, their strength is lessening. People are tired. People are wounded. And they're about half strength as they get down here close to Paris. And so they are really exhausted. But they begin to see signs of Paris. Paris, 20 miles away. And the Germans are like, we got this. And they're all of a sudden, when they're marching down through here, Von Kluck doesn't go to the outside of Paris. Notice the hand. He goes to the inside. Why? Because there's a huge gap between the 1st and 2nd Army. And he's worried about a French army getting in between them. And this is the unraveling. And German soldiers say they all of a sudden take a left turn when they should have been taking a right turn. All right? And they come this way. And even some of the troops say they can see the Eiffel Tower in the distance. At this time, Joffrey really becomes this great commander. He reorganizes the French army, sends many of these troops over to face this German threat right here. He fires 140 generals and puts the fighting generals in charge all throughout the army. He's in a car driven by a Grand Prix champion. So it would be like a general being driven around by Jimmy Johnson. I mean, how crazy is that? And so he creates the new 6th Army from troops right here, and he sends them out to the front. How do they get to the front? They get to the front on taxicabs. Taxicabs. And this is the picture of the taxicabs, the Parisian taxicabs, lined up to load the troops to get them to the front. Isn't that crazy? Taxicabs. Now, Joffrey knows of this turn right here because of Airplanes, another new invention from the First World War, at this time just used for reconnaissance. So he has the information he needs. At this time, the Sixth Army attacks the flank of von Kluge's First Army, and it forces the First Army to pull back and face this, which now creates the gap that he feared. And this is when the new Ninth Army and the British enter into this gap, which leads the Second Army to pull back and face them, which leads to the Third Army to pull back and the Fourth. And it is called the Miracle on the Marne because of the Marne River right there. And it's a huge victory, and this saves Paris, of course. They fall back to this river right here called the Aisne River, right? The Aisne River. And they pull back to here behind the river, and this is when the Scots arrive in their kilts. And the Germans called them the Ladies from Hell. And that's where we leave part 1 of 1914. Sorry it went 21 minutes. We'll finish part 2 tomorrow.